Uh, these provisions, I'm going to have a discussion. Basically, they apply, as you must have seen, that specified entities and specified persons. Specified entities are partnership firms, AOPs and BOI, and accordingly, specified persons are partners and members. But for the purposes of discussion, I have taken everywhere as a partner and a firm. So that is something which, really speaking, we can keep it in mind. I have tried to put these particular slides in a manner that we are first explaining provisions which were before, then what are the newly introduced provisions, then provisions of section 9B, analysis what I could really understand, and lastly, few examples. So with that, I suppose we can go to the next slide. My sincere request is, because there are a lot of issues in this, so we will try and finish everything practically by 10:30, and thereafter we can, really speaking, have discussion. As you're aware, the earlier section 45.4 had a wording which said that capital gain on distribution of capital assets on dissolution of the firm or otherwise. The word otherwise was apparently creating a problem, and therefore, this time what had happened is, in the budget, initially when this budget was presented, we had two sections, namely 45.4 and 45.4a. But suddenly, at the time of final bill presentation, everything was changed, and we had new section 9b. 45.4 was again changed. So we can call this 45.4 in new avatar as a recast 45.4. There are certain changes which are made in section 48, subsection 3, that is in order to give some relief. So this is what it is. Yes, Sagar, I'm going little fast so that we can, really speaking, discuss something later. So earlier decision of Malabar Fisheries, that is the consequences of the distribution, division or allotment of assets by partnership which follows upon dissolution after discharge of liabilities, is nothing but a mutual adjustment of rights between the partners, and there is no question of any extinguishment of the firm's rights in the partnership assets amounting to a transfer of assets within the meaning of section 247. So this is what was the view before. Now comes all the new amendments. That is what is something which I have summarized in the next slide. So the amendments which are made now are, one is 9B, which we are going to discuss in detail. 45.4 is there. 48.3 is, if any money or capital asset is received by a specified person from a specified entity, then the amount chargeable to income tax as income of such specified entity, which is attributable to the capital asset being transferred. This particular part, I suppose we will be in a position to, really speaking, understand it better when we take 45.4, because 45.4 calculation is formula based, where they have given a formula as A is equal to B plus C minus D, where A is equal to calculation of the capital gain, B is equal to money received, C is equal to capital asset, and D is the balance in the capital account. As far as we are concerned, just now we can just summarize this particular thing. We can take 45.4, either I can take or somebody else also is keen, he can take 45.4 at a later date. So most important part is, these amendments are applicable from 1st April 2021, and accordingly they will apply from assessment year 2021-22. So relevant to financial year 2021, this has got larger ramifications, like supposing some dissolution of a partnership firm has taken place in financial year 1920, and asset assets are distributed in financial year 2021, still that particular thing will attract. That is what is something which, really speaking, is very dangerous. So one needs to be very careful, especially with the word is in connection with, as compared to earlier, what it was is on dissolution or otherwise. So Yeah, Sagar, can we have a next slide, please? Yeah. Uh, this particular slide I have purposely given is these are something which are from the reference of essentials of any tax laws. These are the four pillars. Even though this judgment is related to sales tax, these particular pillars are something which are very important for any tax provision to understand. And moreover, whether that tax provision which is introduced is validly introduced or not, or whether it is likely to face a rough weather, can be ascertained based on this. This is a Supreme Court judgment. Even though it applies to this, it was pronounced in connection with sales tax, it is equally, according to me, applicable for the direct taxes provision. So the first is the character of the imposition known by its nature, which prescribes the taxable event. So taxable event should be clearly defined. Then second is person on whom the levy is imposed and who is obliged to pay the tax. Next pillar is the rate at which the tax is imposed. And when the rate is there, as we are accountants, we will like to know with reference to what amount, and therefore measure or value to which the rate will be applied for computing the tax liability. If these components are not clearly and definitely ascertainable, then it is difficult to say that levy exists in a point of law. Any uncertainty or vagueness in the legislative scheme defining any of these components of levy will be fatal to its validity. This is a Supreme Court judgment, and therefore one should really speaking try and test these particular four pillars when somebody is trying to test as to whether the provisions of the law are validly pronounced or not. Yeah, next slide. Now, there is one more important aspect. This particular thing is not my creation, let it be, but this is something which has come from the public domain. As you are aware, that at the time of introduction of the bill, there were amendments introduced. Now, when 45(4) was introduced, at that time, the notice of amendment, which is placed before the Parliament, stated that expression used in section 45(4) is any profits or gains arising from the receipt of such money by the specified person. Now, recast section 45(4), you can see the bold portion. There it says that in connection with the reconstitution of such specified entity, then any profits or gains arising from receipt of such money, that such money is not appearing now by the specified person, shall be chargeable to income tax. If it was only for the money, then in that case, there would have been a big problem, because in 45(4), you are talking about distribution of assets also and not only money. Now, this particular thing, I have tried to find it out on the PRS website, but somehow or other, I could not get, really speaking, as to what has transpired exactly. So therefore, on the next slide, I have mentioned that if there was this particular correction was made through an errata, it is not still clear as to what stage this error was noticed, that is whether before or after the assent by the president. If errata was issued without sanction of the parliament, then its validity, as I have mentioned, may face a rough weather. But let me tell you, this is something which I have collected this particular two slides, and for me, I have collected it from the public domain, so that we are not really speaking accusing any government with anything. That's what is the purpose behind this. Anil, you will like to say anything?
There is a purpose to this, because if those words were remaining,
Yes.
then whether the charge would attach to the distribution of capital asset, a doubt would have been created.
Absolutely.
So that is any profits and gains arising from receipt of such money. So
Yeah.
then if you look at they are in the initial portion of 45(4),
Yes.
they are saying any money or capital asset or both.
Yes.
And then in the latter part, if they are going to only say profits and gains arising from receipt of such money, an argument would have remained as to whether on the receipt of a capital asset, 45(4) intends to levy a charge or not. So it was a clear error which they have now
apparently
done it.
corrected, but
Yes,
then
yes.
it somebody has mentioned this particular thing as to at what stage this particular thing was carried out is still not clear. And let me tell you very honestly, on the PRS website, I tried to search as to what exactly has gone on 23rd March and all this thing, but somehow or the other I could
Yeah,
not get
but
that material.
we can discuss as if it's valid, because assuming that it was a post facto also, they
True.
will come in with a amendment at either by an ordinance or otherwise, because
True.
in the absence of that deletion it could create a problem. So let's discuss as if this has been validly carried out.
Yeah,
Let's
but
not get into that debate.
as it is for our
Yes,
today's
yes,
discussion,
yes,
technically
yes. Yeah.
45.4 is not there, but I just thought that we should point it out so that, everybody is really speaking aware about what has happened. Yes, I suppose, Sagar, we can now skip to the next one. Yeah, now comes section 9B. Basically, if at all we see section 9B, subsection 1 and 2 are first very important immediately. So what I have done, wherever I have felt that the wordings which are important, this particular slide, I have marked those particular words, phrases, and thereafter I have taken those particular wordings in a tabular form to analyze this section. So I suppose, Sagar, here, instead of going into this particular slide, we may have to really speaking go and sort of on alt tab or going backwards and back and forth. So you can skip this and go to the one slide after this, because this section is really here. Yeah. Thereafter, there will be one more slide. Yeah. Yeah. This is actually the complete section, which is really speaking there. Yeah. Here. Yeah. Next one. Next one. Yeah. Here. So I have purposely done it this way, that in a columnar format, that what is the condition of an event, what is the possible interpretation, and if there are any issues. So the first thing is, a partner receives during the previous year. So what is necessary is an actual receipt and not a constructive receipt during the previous year. Thus, if partner's account is debited and asset account credited in the books of firm, this will not trigger, because what it envisages is actually handing over or distribution of that asset, and just passing of the entries will not be sufficient. Then, if you go to the next part, what it says is, so now we will read it jointly. Partner receives during the previous year any capital asset or stock in trade or both from specified entity. So what is that which partner gets? He gets a capital asset, he gets a stock in trade, or he gets both from the specified entity. So please keep it in mind. In 9B, money is not there. So section 45.4 covers money. Therefore, whenever you are confronted with a situation that on dissolution or reconstitution, when capital asset or stock in trade or both are given, then 9B will be attracted. If money is given, then 9B will not be attracted, but 45.4 will be attracted. But in 45.4, even capital asset is there, but stock in trade is not there. So what will happen? There is a possibility of an overlap, and therefore they are likely to come out with certain provision, so that the tax which is really speaking duplicated, or you are made to pay the tax twice on the same event, will get eliminated. So strictly receipt should be of these assets. Therefore, in an issue, what I have said is, if there is an agricultural land which is not a capital asset, if that is distributed, whether section 9B will be attracted. On the other hand, all capital assets which are whether movable or any immovable or actionable claim, etc., are covered by the expression. So this is what is something which comes out of section 9. Yeah. Next part, can we go? Yeah. I suppose it is becoming clear to the people. If I'm going a little fast, you can always tell me so that we can go a little slow. So now, again, when we go into this, when are this particular distribution to a partner, then which is the event? It is in connection with the dissolution or reconstitution of such specified entity. So as we have decided to talk about the firm, it is in connection with the dissolution or reconstitution of a firm. So receipt during the previous year of assets should be in connection with the dissolution or reconstitution. See, very importantly, when we are coming in section 45.4, suppose somebody has withdrawn money just out of his capital account and there is no dissolution or there is no reconstitution, then in that case, this section will not be attractive because, sorry, its distribution has to be in connection with the dissolution or reconstitution. As I have already mentioned, that previously the words used were on dissolution or otherwise. Now the words are in connection with. So thus, if dissolution has taken place, this I have already discussed, it's very important and it has a far-reaching implications. And therefore, even if this dissolution has taken place in financial year 1920 and assets are now distributed in financial year 2021, since this provision is becoming applicable in assessment year 21-22, we should be perhaps liable for this. So what is essential is nexus between dissolution or reconstitution and distribution. Both these events need not be in the same previous year. Yes, Vishnu, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. 1 second. Not able to unmute myself. Am I unmuted? You can hear
Yes.
me? Okay, thank you. No, I just wanted to flag 3 issues. You mentioned that first is that if a distribution of assets or a movement of assets, I'll call it, takes place after the year in which there has been dissolution, but it can be established that it is in connection with, then it would be covered. Now, what I thought of this, a similarity that normally what happens is if there is a gift given after marriage to the spouse, then that is considered as a gift which attracts the deeming provision, where the income is deemed to be in the hands of the spouse which gifts it. If it happens before the marriage, then in that case, it is considered that there is no nexus between the two. So it cannot be clubbed. So same way, what if the movement of the asset, that is the distribution of the transfer of the asset, happens before the dissolution? Whether that would be considered, what would be the test for deciding whether it is in connection with it? One. Second is, you mentioned about money being withdrawn. What if an asset is withdrawn, but there is no dissolution or change of constitution happening at that point of time? Whether that will also not be covered. And the third one is, what if there is a change which actually does not involve admission of a new partner? For example, or a change in the percentage also. For example, a person who is already admitted to the benefits of partnership, a minor, merely becomes major. So by operation of law, he becomes a full-fledged partner. There is no overt act on behalf of any of the partners. He is already admitted to the benefits of partnership. The change in percentage is not there. The only thing is, from minor, that person becomes a major. So whether that will be considered as a change in constitution for the purposes of this. These 3 questions I want to park. That's all.
Yeah, I suppose
we can take it at appropriate time.
I think we can take the questions, Vishnu, at a later time.
Yes, of course. I just park.
Yeah. Or Anil, do you wish to really answer now itself?
Because I have views on it, but if we want to take everything at the end, it is all right in the sense.
No, otherwise, because what will happen is then people will be clear immediately. So
all right, if you want me to take them now,
better.
I would look at it this way. Vishnu really referred to marriage. There are 2 aspects to it. One is in a lighter vein, I would say a distinction. Distinction is that even a partnership is a contract, and at least in Hindu law, a marriage is not a contract. So therefore, the analogy would not strictly apply. This is, of course, in a lighter vein. As far as his point as to whether the withdrawal at an or withdrawal of monies at an earlier point of time would trigger, I would take certainly a view that it would not trigger, for the reason that while shall we say the trigger is a reconstitution of a partnership firm, it fructifies, or the charge fructifies on receipt of the particular asset, money, or be it capital asset, stock in trade, or money. These three events permeate through 9b and 45(4). But as I said, while the trigger is the reconstitution of the AOP or BOI or a firm, it fructifies with the receipt of the asset in whatever character. And if the receipt of the asset is at a point of time when this law was not in force, then the charge would fail. So he's rightly pointed out that if the receipt is at an earlier point of time and the dissolution takes place later, I do not believe that the charge would survive. Though people would make an attempt, but since the amendment is from AY 2122, in my opinion, it would not survive. As far as his point of a minor becoming a major is concerned, to my mind, a minority is permitted to, is recognized by the Income Tax Act, and therefore there should not be a problem a minor admitting himself to a partnership, or rather becoming a full-fledged partner, to my mind would not trigger a charge, because ultimately anterior thereto also he was recognized as such under the income tax law. So I would not believe that that would really change the position of a minor becoming a partner. That's what my immediate reaction is.
Yeah,
We can go
Anil.
further. Yeah.
Yeah, Anil, what I am trying to ask is just a corollary to this, that supposing this particular distribution, taking Vishnu's question, suppose this distribution has taken place after this section has come into effect and the dissolution takes place later, whether in that particular case this will be attracted. That's what I thought.
If so, let us consider quickly now two situations. One situation is that the distribution or withdrawal has taken place earlier. The question is, you have to do two things. You have to establish the occurrence of both events, and it does not end at that. You have to establish a connection between the two. Now, if you are able to establish a connection between the two, then the withdrawal of an asset after 1st April 2020 and the subsequent dissolution, to my mind, is sufficient for you to trigger that, if the department is then able to establish the connection between the two, because it's not idle, it is in connection therewith. So the withdrawal of the asset has to be in connection with dissolution or reconstitution. If you are able to establish that, there could be several nuances to that. So if that is then, and both these situations are post 1st April 2020, then yes. So to give an example, the withdrawal happens in AY 20, or rather financial year 2021, and the dissolution takes place in 21-22. Your question is as to whether the provision would trigger. I would say that if the connection is established, the answer is yes.
Yes, that is what I thought that he is asking on that.
No, I just, no, not asking. I just wanted to clarify one thing. I mean, the example, my apologies if that example found inappropriate. No, but why I took that was because that is one occasion or one instance where the court has clearly held that anything which is given in contemplation of marriage cannot be considered as in connection with the marriage, because the parties can always refuse to marry thereafter. So that was exactly what I remember having read in that decision, that the money was given before the marriage took place, and immediately on the next day the marriage happened. So the view propounded on behalf of the appellants was that well, if the marriage may not have taken place, because till the marriage takes place, their relationship is not as such. Now, to take that example ahead, if it is in connection with the admission of a partner, that some movement is happening, and that happens before the admission takes place, then how a connection could be established is difficult to foresee. Yes, in the case of a dissolution, yes, both were partners and one has gone out. So the distribution or the withdrawal or the transfer of the asset or money can happen before, on an understanding basis. At least there is some legs to stand on. But here is someone who's going to come in. If something happens before that happens and later on the deed is just not signed, then that person can't come in. So
I think Vishnu, one will have to establish circumstances to give.
yes, no,
because-
of course, I'm not disputing the fact that this will be largely
Very-
based on facts,
Very
but only as a
importantly,
concept I wanted it to be tested, that
yeah,
well,
but Vishnu,
prior is always better than post, because post always could be said as
yes,
to be
but
in
Vishnu, practically speaking, it is very rare that it will take place prior to the event of either admission or dissolution, because as you rightly said, a marriage may not take place. The parties may not trust that. Okay, if I pay off, or if and then
And
the person
thereafter
does not dissolution.
then later on the
These are
person may not sign.
these are theoretical possibilities, but very rarely it will happen in I'm not saying that it is impossible. It is possible, because in this meeting I can say that there can be a situation of antedating, but by and
Not
large,
antedating, but there could be a side agreement.
yeah.
you
So
know.
these are ultimately
Something like
eventualities
that.
where one will have to take it on facts, but
and we cannot forget one thing, that this is actually a deeming provision, and therefore it has to be strictly construed. So that is what is something which is
no,
there.
so therefore the
Yeah.
connection once established on the basis of facts,
Yes.
to my mind would create difficulty. As I said, as counsels we are willing to argue anything, so we'll argue and not that we will not, but that's a different matter. Anyway,
Yeah.
we have long place to travel, so you can go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, Sagar, let us go further. So last of the event is then that specified entity shall be deemed to have transferred such capital asset or stock in trade or both, as the case may be, to the specified person in the year in which such capital asset or stock in trade or both are received. Now, this is very important that taxability is in the year in which such asset is received by the partner. And therefore, I have mentioned is not before or not later. Now, the time gap between dissolution and distribution, on dissolution, firm ceases to exist. So how you will do the assessment of the firm in the year when the partner receives this asset? So therefore, I felt that really speaking, possible solution is from the wording of section 189, which is quite extensive. I have reproduced section 189 subsection 1 in the next slide, because if you see the section 189.1, so it says where any business or profession carried on by firm has been discontinued or where firm is dissolved, the assessing officer shall make an assessment of the total income of the firm as if no such discontinuance or dissolution has taken place, and all the provisions of this act, including the provisions relating to levy of the penalty or any other sum chargeable, blah, blah, blah. So basically what happens is, according to me, department is very well protected through section 189, and therefore that question should not pose a situation that the firm has been dissolved. So how we will really speaking do the assessment? That's what is something which I felt. Yeah, next. So now if we have really speaking summarized this, there's a deed transferred which is given under section 9b subsection 1. Head of the income is provided under section 9b subsection 2. Now, I really could not understand, which perhaps Anil, can you really speaking tell that this placement of section 9b in chapter 2, which is a basis of charge, I could not understand as to why that is placed there. Yeah, Anil?
It is placed there because to my mind, there is a drafting error there also.
Yeah.
See, what happens is 45 is basically a provision which is charging capital assets, and now they have included the monetary part there also.
Yeah.
The question is, what would happen in the context of a withdrawal or a handing over of stock in trade? Either they could have bought it in section 28, or they could have bought it elsewhere. They thought it fit because ultimately it's a fiction. So instead of bringing it into 28, they probably thought to bring it in 9b. But
Yeah.
if we are at this stage, let me just point out to friends that the distinction here and the difference, according to me, between and maybe possibly they will, like they rectified that money error, they
Yeah.
may rectify this also. See,
Yeah.
look at the distinction between 9 and 9b.
Yeah.
You have section 5, which is the scope of total income. Then you have section 9, which begins with the words that this shall be these income shall be deemed to accrue and arise. Now 9b deems the transfer of a stock in trade, undoubtedly, but it does not deem that transfer to result in income. And as we go further, I mentioned to you when we were having a chit chat that
Yeah.
in 45.4, there is a mechanism for this computation. In 9b, there is none. And therefore, if one is able to argue successfully that 9b is a machinery which deems a transfer, but where is the question of income? Because profits and gains arising from. Now, profits and gains, if they don't arise at all, what would be the position? So now this is something which I think, because and whom to should the profits and gains arise to? The profits and gains actually should arise to the partner. But that mechanism, which is 45.4, is a complete code, because as you pointed out, a plus b minus c, b plus c minus d is what they specify.
Yes.
Same sort of machinery does not seem to be here. There is a little weakness in 9b, is my thought process in it, because they don't see any income which arises under 45 is already included in 224. A similar inclusion does not appear as far as 9b income is concerned. So there could be some difficulty on this.
Even I felt, really speaking, that as far as the stock in trade is concerned, when there is nothing which is mentioned in section 28, possibly one can have certain difficulties in calculation of that particular income also. For example, a stock in trade. Now, I was just exploring a possibility that, really speaking, suppose there is a situation, as we were discussing, that in financial year 1819, somebody has made entire purchases of this particular stock. All these purchases were in cash. Okay. And in 1920, there is no movement. This particular stock is carried forward. In 2021, when this particular resolution has taken place and this stock in trade is given, what will happen to that particular disallowance, which should be, really speaking, attached to that purchases? I doubt very much as to whether that can be done in the year. But of course, that Anil, can you, really speaking,
No,
elaborate on this particular
no,
matter?
you have taken a very these are situations which one will have to test as and when they come. But
Yeah,
the point is that while assessing something under the head profits and gains of business or profession,
yeah,
they have not thought this through, and you cannot think this through. This will go along as the law develops.
yeah,
Basically, I frankly am not understanding as to why they brought this charge to the firm at all, in
yeah,
the sense that now if somebody actually pays out money to the partner, assuming that you want to charge the person receiving money in excess of what his contribution as recorded in the books is, then in that case, to my mind, the charge should have remained with the person who actually enjoys that income, which is the partner. On the other hand, what is happening is that the firm is getting the charge, which is something which is, to my mind, in quite incongruous.
yeah.
45.4 was there, but they have now increased the incongruity. I don't understand. Vishnu has raised a hand. He probably wants to say something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
only about the cash purchase of stock. See, what would happen is the quantum will be very minimal, because if it exceeds 2 lakhs, then first of all, because the other party has received that cash payment, he would have had to pay penalty of a like amount. So nobody will sell that item for 2 lakhs, more than 2 lakhs in cash. I mean, that's just a practical issue which I thought I'll flag.
Right.
So,
But that particular
somewhere
part,
or the other, it will get hit.
yeah, but that is understandable. But at what point in time 48.3 disallowance has to be done? That's what is important, because in this type of a situation, department will go and reopen the earlier assessment for whatever reason that disallowance at the time of purchase was not
No,
done.
but such
So
practical difficulties will also be there in the
that
earlier
is what I
example,
wanted
where
to just bring it.
yes, where Anil sir rightly pointed out, that is, sir, that okay, if it is a prior year also, if there is a connection which can be established by the department, it will be taxable. Now, in that year, since it is taxable in the year of receipt, it will involve a question of reopening again,
See,
because
some of
in
the
X year the money is received, and in X plus 2 years the dissolution takes place or the reconstitution takes place. Then already the assessment for X year would have been completed when that takes place, and only when it takes place the department will wake up that, oh, this withdrawal was
Yes,
pertaining to this, so there are going to be practical difficulties here
yes,
also.
yes, yes,
yes,
yes,
yes,
yes.
that accepted. Yeah, next slide can we go? Yeah, the next question is regarding fair market value. Some or the other in this section, I could not find at least that where it is mentioned that the fair market value is something which will be as prescribed and all. So possibly we will have to refer to section 222B, which defines fair market value. But of course, there the problem is it is mentioning about fair market value in relation to a capital asset, means the price that the capital asset would ordinarily fetch on the sale in the open market on the relevant date, and where the price referred to in subclause 1 is not ascertainable, such price may be determined. So apparently, if at all somebody is going strictly by this definition, there is a possibility that this fair market value of a capital asset, if at all somebody is taking this view, then in that case, this fair market value perhaps can be lower than 50C value also. That is quite possible. But that particular thing, I think the time will tell as to whether this view is right. Okay. Yeah. Next slide. Perhaps Anil wants to say something.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think this is something as far as the applicability of section 45(1) for charging, because in 9B they have mentioned about how this particular thing will be assessed, the head of income under which it is going to be assessed. And apparently, as far as the capital gain section is concerned, the mechanism is very clearly mentioned, and therefore, I feel that really speaking, in that case, the capital gain calculation is something which is quite possible under those particular provisions. Yeah, next slide. So now we are going ahead with the reconstitution. They have defined reconstitution in the normal term. There is a retirement of one or more partners, admission of one or more new partners in such a circumstances that one or more of the existing partners continue. So admission come retirement also is possible, and change in profit sharing ratio. Now, yeah, applicability of these provisions to AOP and BOI that we have already mentioned, and therefore we can go to the next slide, Sagar. Yeah, here I have given all these particular examples considering different situation in which particular situation it is falling, but I suppose we need not spend much time on this, because I think we will be having a lot of questions coming, and then we will have to, I will really speaking look forward to Anil telling us a lot of things which are better than this. Therefore, on reconstitution examples, I'm not going much in detail. Yeah, unless somebody wants really speaking this particular matter to be discussed, I suppose we have elaborately covered this. Yeah. Yeah, next slide also. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so how the calculation of the capital gain will be done? So method of computation is sale consideration, less expenses, cost of acquisition, cost of improvement, and then comes this particular thing under 45(4), that we will take it later, because there is a provision which is given as to how this duplication can be avoided. That is what is something. Normally, one would say that if at all under 9B you are coming to say in a situation at 2 crores of rupees capital gain, and under 45(4) you are coming to 1.80 crores, then in that case, possibly the capital gain which is liable will be only 20 lakhs. That is what it will come to, more or less. But let us see what way the provisions come later on, because that we have to wait for the central government to really speaking come out with the clarification, especially as Anil also was saying, A is equal to B plus C minus D is not very easy to really speaking comprehend when we are coming to that. But that particular part we can discuss it later on when we are going to discuss 45(4). Yeah, next one. This is something I have already discussed, that this is a part of section 9B itself, and therefore the central government here, the authority is taken, really speaking, regarding the difficulties which are experienced in 45(4) implementation also. So those guidelines which are required, only thing is all these guidelines are required to be laid before the parliament, and that is what is the binding. Yeah, next. Now this is a simple example which I have taken, that whatever, instead of going into the complication, that date of dissolution is 1st April 2021. Distribution to partners is immovable property. I have taken here simple, that stamp duty value is 15 lakhs and index cost of acquisition of immovable property is 8 lakhs. Again, in stock in trade is FMV 12 lakhs and cost of purchase is 9 lakhs. In shares, so how the capital gain and the business income will be calculated? So that is given on the next slide. If you see, sale consideration as mentioned from the previous slide is 15 lakhs and 10 lakhs respectively. Index cost of acquisitions are 8 and 9 lakhs. So capital gain is 7 plus 1 is 8 lakhs. And when we go to the next slide, you will find that the profit on stock in trade is 3 lakhs of rupees. And therefore, the total gain which firm will be assessed will be 11 lakhs of rupees. As this is the case of dissolution, as I have just mentioned, 45(4) will not apply. Yeah, next. Yeah, these are certain posers which I have mentioned as to whether in these particular provisions, especially in 9B, whether 54 EC exemption can be claimed, then what is the date of transfer, whether it is a date of dissolution or date of receipt. So basically, as we have discussed earlier, it is a date of receipt which, really speaking, triggers this section, not before. Yeah, that's what it is. I think with this particular thing, we are just winding up this particular part. I suppose so many people will be having questions, and I will, really speaking, rely much on Anil as far as this
No,
matters. Yeah.
I think those issues which you have raised can be discussed one by one.
Yeah.
So receipt only from specified entity and not from other partners.
Yeah.
So I think Vishnu had raised a hand earlier. He wants to say
Yeah.
something.
So it was just to add one more point there, if you permit me, that what if the money is received not by the specified person, but by the legal heir?
Yeah, that
So
is
the
not covered.
dissolution was done, but the money was actually not received by the specified person because the specified person passed away, or maybe because that specified person got insolvent, so it was received by the assignee instead of the specified person. So in short, not received by the specified person but by someone else. Whether that case it got triggered from the first line, receipt only from specified entity, not from other partners. So because it is a deeming provisions of very strict interpretation, so whether receipt by legal heir would be considered as a trigger event for taxation. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. Why take? Of course, there could be other implications on that, as he says. Even in the first situation, because we had thought of this as soon as the section came in, because we are discussing a real life situation. The question was whether the money could be paid to anybody else. But then we were unable to reconcile or get out of 56 to 10, because if the other person was not a partner and the firm pays him, see, the firm, as far as the firm is concerned, the outflow of assets, whether in monetary terms or anything else, really does not, in the sense, for them it's the money going, so that's not an issue. But the question really was that in such a scenario, what would happen in the hands of that other person? So that was something which we did not or we could not get over. As I said, the point is that we were trying to argue that we have still not reconciled. I'll just explain so that others
Okay,
are.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
It's like this: that suppose I have to pay a partner a crore of rupees, and we have decided to pay it in monetary terms. Now the capital account of the partner is say 10 lakhs. If I pay him a crore, then on 90 lakh rupees, which is in excess of his capital balance, I'll be subjected to tax at straight away, whatever the percentage is, 20% or whatever. So that is what I will be subjected to. Now, instead of paying X, who was my partner who retired, I pay his relative. What would happen? So there, of course, I would escape. But what would happen in the hands of that person actually receiving the money? There, the issue was that yes, he receives it without consideration. He
Absolutely.
receives it without consideration. So 56(2)(10) applies in his hands. Then we said, can we argue that if there is a tripartite agreement between the three, again subject to GAR provisions, saying that okay, X and Y are relatives, Y receives the money, X retires, and the consideration is that X retires from the firm, because the Indian Contract Act permits that if a person receives something, uh, the consideration may flow from another person. That is possible. We are trying to explore that possibility. Didn't work out ultimately,
no,
but
sir. Actually, an easier thing would be, because that was going to be my next question. If there is a family arrangement, what I'm trying to say is, to give you an example, it is said that the if A is the causative factor and B and C happen because of the causative factor A, then C cannot be said to happen because of B. So
right.
what I'm saying here is that there is a firm. So there's a dissolution of a firm and there is a transfer of some money.
Hmm.
Now, if that transfer of money or the receipt of money by the partner is in connection with the dissolution, then yes, this charge is attracted. Now, I'm saying that there is a family arrangement, and both these things, that is the dissolution of the firm as well as the payment of the money, is in terms of the family arrangement. So it has nothing to do with the dissolution of the firm. Then that could be an arguable case.
Possible. There could be a lot of nuances, but what happens ultimately is like this. Wherever the stumbling block was, when we discussed all this,
Hmm.
the partnership firm which was actually going to make the payout and the group which was going to remain in the firm said
Hmm.
that all right, what you are saying is fine, but suppose a charge comes later on, what happens? So
Who's
who is
responsible? True,
Who's
responsible?
true.
That
responsible?
indemnities and all,
Hmm.
in the sense, ultimately, when we sat with solicitors, they said, Baba, you paid off, because as it is becoming so difficult. And with partners aged 70, 75, I said, chodo. But
Yes.
all these lot of complications will arise. And the reason why this is going to happen is that by deeming fiction, normally what happens is that the tax fructifies in the hands of the person receiving the income. When by a fiction of law, you say that the income actually is fructifying in the hands of X, but you ask another entity to pay the tax, all these problems arise. I would have thought it far simpler for them to provide that, yes, you could have provided mechanisms of cost of action. The person receiving the money will pay the tax, and that would have ended the matter. Now you are asking the firm to pay the tax. And in the hands of the firm, look at how the situation will unfold. They don't get this as a deduction. This payment does not happen as a deduction. They get, so therefore the asset goes, they don't get deduction of that. And on top of it, pay tax. So that is something which hurts. So it's a very difficult situation to it was, of course, anybody will say ki 45.4 maybe wo tha, but now it increases even. And earlier, what was the position? In 45.4, we used to get away by saying that if you pay money, it doesn't get attracted. Now money is also covered. So
No,
difficult.
and 45.4 was relatively toothless provision because of that or otherwise clause, which was very weak.
But that could have been amended. I do not still understand that what did they achieve by doing all these particular things, really? Because if at all they wanted, 45.4 could have been amended properly, and one more provision in section 28. That would have been, really speaking, it would have taken care of their logic of business income and all these things.
Then what would have we done? So
and we would not have been discussing this today.
Anyway,
also.
I think others have anything to say, because
Yeah.
me, Vishnu, and you have been talking. So
yeah,
I
anybody
think
else?
we'll wait for some time for.
Yeah.
Anybody else wants to say something, because we want to have a discussion. Deepak is not there today?
No, Deepak just sent a message that suddenly he had to remain away from this. So,
Okay.
yeah, he mentioned it.
Okay, you can take the next question then. If assigned to other partners, will 45.1 or 56.210 apply? What do you want to say, Pramod, exactly? You can bring that out so then we can discuss.
No, as Vishnu was saying, that if at all this particular distribution of asset or something, which was, if it was assigned to other partners by one partner, then what will happen? That's what it is.
You mean asset of the firm assigned to?
Yeah.
No. So is it, Pramod, that you mean that the recipient is somebody other than the specified person?
Yes.
So that could happen because of many reasons, including either family arrangement or death or assignment or a contractual arrangement like Anil sir suggested. But basically that means person who is receiving is not the specified person, so the charge fails. Then does the other two sections get
apply? That is.
So,
what is your view, Anil, regarding the fair market value? What is to be considered?
That will develop over. I think you will have a prescription very soon, but because otherwise, without the prescription, it's going to be tough. So I reckon that there'll be a prescription to this quite soon. But
for the prescription, they have not taken authority. But then in that case, that will do that particular.
That they will.
That is the power to remove difficulty.
Yes, they can.
Yeah. Okay. They go back.
Go back.
Sagar.
Yeah.
Go back, Sagar. Sagar. Yeah.
Would 9B 50C 43 CA 50 CA 43 CA?
Possibly some typographical error.
No, for 50C is fine. So what you are saying that there is a transfer, so you go by the FMV principle, that seems to be fairly clear to me.
Yeah.
43 CA.
No, is it that thing that if the value of the asset being transferred is not, the consideration is not determinable, then it will be the market value of the other asset?
No,
I think there is some typographical error.
Okay.
Acha, okay. No. Okay. 50 CA. 50C and 50C, I think in both situations, because we are talking of stock in trade. Yeah. So, and 43 CA, Uh, I don't see Vishnu, you see 43 CA applying?
Sir, sorry to be says that 40 CA is other than capital asset.
Huh? So, so you mean to say that in the hands of the person who is or the specified entity transferring to the partner stock in trade, it will be at fair market value. So the income arising will be computed at fair market value. That is what you are wanting to say.
Correct.
So
Or maybe, sir, circle less than value of the circle value. So there is a special provision which is regarding to less than market value and circle value, which is decided by the valuation officer or maybe a challenge.
Actually, 43 CA here, what is written is, if the consideration received by an assessee on transfer of immovable property is less than the stamp duty value, then the value so adopted or assessed or assessable shall be deemed to be the full value of consideration.
Exactly.
For
Sir,
the
what I-
purpose of computation of income under the head profits and gains of business of
It will apply basically to the stock in trade. That is.
yes, but
no, but then it talks of immovable property.
Yeah, yeah. But immovable
43
property
CA,
read
so
as a
43
stock
CA
in trade.
can't apply.
No, what he's possibly looking at is in a builder's firm, you have a flat under which is
So
unsold.
that is a part of stock in trade.
So
Or
that-
56 to 10 is maybe more applicable.
Yes,
This is-
agreed. But in 43 CA also, I don't see 43 CA applying to you in the sense that yes, ultimately for the purpose of deriving at what is the profit and gain, you will have to go to fair market value. But 43 CA in itself talks of consideration which is receivable.
Correct. So therefore, your
Then-
argument of contract being there, that will negate both the sections.
Yes.
Even family arrangement will negate both the sections.
Correct,
Because
correct.
peace and welfare or harmony of the family is
Correct.
considered as full. That is that Goli Ishwaraya also.
Yes.
But Anil, I wanted to ask you that how far you think that with this particular development, this agricultural property, which is not a capital asset, whether that particular thing will not
No.
trigger, whether it is something which is an acceptable thing?
No, so what you are saying is that in a scenario like this, you are saying that, of course, we are talking about a very specific situation,
Yeah.
that there is agricultural land which is held by a firm, which is not a capital asset per
Correct.
se.
And it is
And-
not even a stock in trade.
And it is, okay, it is not stock in trade.
Hmm.
But it is, you are talking a very rare situation, but yes, theoretically, yes, you want to
No.
say that it is.
Sir, is it not a capital asset in accounting parlance you are saying, or income tax parlance? Because in income tax, if it is situated beyond that specified kilometers, it is
No,
not
so
a capital asset.
correct, agreed. Na. So
So
therefore,
in the balance sheet, it may be a fixed asset, a capital asset, etc. But still, it
Naturally,
cannot
we are
be
talking
taxed in
about
that
Vishnu
case.
capital asset from income tax perspective.
so
No, but
therefore,
then
therefore, what Vishnu is saying is that there is a agricultural land which is beyond the specified distances and therefore not a capital asset. And
True.
if that is distributed, then there would be no charges what Pramod is wanting to bring out.
yes,
Because if agricultural land of the nature that you are talking of is vesting in the hands of a real estate firm, there could still be difficulty because then it will attain the character of stock in trade in their hands. If it buys agricultural land, maybe outside the four boundaries or the specified distances, with the object of converting it into NA and then developing it, it will be for it stock in trade.
Yeah.
But if you're talking of a situation where no, as an investment, we have agricultural land which is not a capital asset, then yes, then I think the charging provision will fail because it does not fit the description of capital
I
asset.
actually
And
want to draw your attention to one more peculiar situation, sir. Because I happen to have one or two clients who are partnership firm doing agriculture.
Hmm.
So what happens is that agricultural land has to be held by the individual. So it is in the name of the partners, although it appears in the balance sheet of the firm.
Hmm.
So that is one more peculiarity which will happen.
But
Of
Vishnu,
course, for accounting purposes, it
yeah,
is
no, no,
taken accordingly.
no, no, even
But-
otherwise, Uma has asked this question. Yeah, I saw on the chat
Hmm.
that whether you can a firm can own agricultural land. Now, to my mind, even if the revenue laws don't permit holding, income tax recognizes beneficial and legal ownership differently. So therefore, I don't see a proposition or in the sense you
No,
can.
yes, it has been held. We have done, the returns are being filed. Right? No
So
issue on that. My only issue
correct.
was I just wanted to point out that it may not even be in the name of the firm. That
Right,
asset.
right. Possible. Very much possible. This particular provision is going to raise a lot of
In number of issues, yeah.
n number of issues.
And 54 EC will apply, no? Or
Yes.
because whether the issue with reference to consideration to be invested or the capital gain to
No,
be
I think Vinayak is asking a question. We can ask him to unmute himself and ask the question.
yeah.
Yeah, Vinayak.
Yeah, Anil, what in an existing firm,
Hmm.
if the capital assets are distributed amongst the partners, because they
Hmm.
want to avoid in future any litigation among their children or somebody,
Hmm.
and then the business continues.
Hmm.
There is no dissolution, there is no reconstitution, nothing. Only
Hmm.
the assets or the properties of the firm is distributed amongst the partners. What will be the consequences?
So a distribution sans reconstitution, sans dissolution, does it trigger anything? To my mind, no, because what they are effectively doing is that in a partnership firm, the partners hold the assets. They have interest in the assets, not in specie, but in general. And what
Correct.
they are doing is that now they are just distributing those assets. It's like distribute them withdrawing money. They are withdrawing assets. Nothing really turns
No,
on
but
that. So
the only thing here I wanted to point out was that originally when the asset was introduced, now for a moment, forget the firm. I'm a partner. I've introduced an asset into the firm. When I introduce it, the entry, the amount which is credited in the books to my account will be considered as the fair market value. So at that point of transfer, there is no capital gain. But now, when I'm receiving it back, in the course of my withdrawal from the firm, because originally when it was transferred, it was considered as a transfer of a capital asset, although the value recorded was the value as made the entry made in the book. Will the withdrawal be considered as a transfer from the firm to me, in which case again that issue will arise of whether the consideration and the fair market value.
I think Vishwas Rao is also wanting to ask something.
No, I think because you have asked this question which we have already dealt with, nahi? Ki you are saying what is the situation where firm had already dissolved prior to 1420 and transfer of property takes place now. That is what we discussed, nahi? Because this will trigger on the dissolution, on the distribution, and dissolution might have taken place earlier. But if distribution had taken place after 1/4/2020, then in that case, this will be covered.
No, sir. But now, this dissolution has taken place 3 years back, and after that, firm has not filed, of course, its return. Now, if suppose the transfer takes place in this year, firm needs to file his return by paying taxes, something like this. This is what you suggest, right?
Yeah.
But,
no, if dissolution has happened before the appointed date, then in that case, this section is not applicable, na?
No, but then transfer is taking place, right? In current year.
So but transfer is in respect of a dissolution which has happened before the amendment took place.
No.
Okay.
So to my mind, it will apply only to dissolutions or reconstitutions which happen after the date on which that provision, with effect from which that provision is introduced.
No,
no,
I differ
I-
here, Vishnu. Vishnu, this I differ. I think because here
no,
what-
what you see, Pramod,
Yeah.
what he says is also arguable, not that it's not
Arguable, yeah.
arguable, but to say that, see, the point is what Vishnu wants to urge is that both events have to take place post 1/4/2020. What we are saying is that it is possible to take a view that for example, let's take a simpler case, because in dissolution, what happens is that the firm ceases to exist. But let's take a case of a reconstitution. So the firm continues. And what happens is that the firm XYZ retires, and his capital balance was at the point of time of retirement, say 50 lakh rupees. That is in the books of the firm still continuing as a ex-partner's capital account. Now, in order to settle that to the retired partner, the firm hands over a particular asset. Will the section trigger? We are taking a simpler example because dissolution as in its wake will have different connotations. In that situation, according to Vishnu, there will be no charge because the retirement has, or the reconstitution has taken place anterior to AY 21-22. Though the handing over of the person, because if you look at, just go back to the definition of reconstitution. We'll just test this. Where you had put forth that definition itself in 9B, na?
Yeah.
Let's look at that.
Just one more. Yes, here. This is the reconstitution.
No, I want to see the section itself. For the purpose, section reconstitution of the person means retirement or admission or one of new partners, change in profit sharing ratio. The definition of specified person and specified entity, just see.
Go back.
There
The
is a
first few slides where the complete 9B is reproduced. That will be better. Skip it.
the section itself.
This one.
Yes. No,
Yeah.
the specified entity and specified person.
Just
Aage wala
go
slide,
next slide.
Next slide.
No.
No.
Next, move into the previous one. Yeah.
So now, specified entity means a firm or other association of person or a body bundle. Specified person means a person who is a partner in a firm, who is a partner of a firm, or a member of other association of persons or a body of individuals not being a company in any previous year. Now to Vishnu, to answer your proposition, what I'm saying is that once you are a partner in any previous year and a dissolution or reconstitution takes place and you receive an asset from that entity, I have a view that it is possible to urge that the charge will trigger, because it is not as if you have to be a partner in the year in which you receive the asset. Specified person means a person who is a partner of a firm or a member of other association of persons or body of individuals in any previous year, which means that you are a partner in any previous year, and in lieu of your capital balance, you receive asset or money or etc. I have a view that it could trigger the.
No, agreed. For the sake of argument, let us say it triggers. But then reconstitution of the specified entity is supposed to be in which year? So let us look at the section.
No, reconstitution has happened. So
reconstitution has happened. What does that section actually? Can we just go back and read the
go back.
No, here reconstitution is here only.
No. Reconstitution. The actual wording of 9B is what you want to see. Go back.
Yeah, this is the section.
No. Start with the beginning. See, where a specified persons received during the previous year. So what is the
during the previous year any capital asset in connection with the dissolution of such specified.
So there would have been a difference if they had used a word on
in the previous year,
or also in connection is what is going to create a problem, because the charge fructifies on receipt and the connection is with the reconstitution, or that is what is going to happen.
And so, this is very far-reaching because dissolution or reconstitution might have taken few years before also, according to.
Only
Um,
the connection will then become tenuous to establish, but
Yeah.
So actually, because now that brings us to the efflux of time
yeah,
scenario. For example, I remember in the case of insurance policy, hmm, 1 year is considered as the required time. I don't know whether it is by convention or by case law, but I have heard someone tell me, agent, that one cannot be considered to be in contemplation of something for more than a year. So,
no, no,
so,
no,
so
no,
if we
I
go
was
by that,
Vishnu,
so.
from where do you get this?
No,
sorry.
no, no. He probably gets it from the Estate Duty Act. If you see, I now since Vishnu is mentioning, I recalled my days of study. If you see Estate Duty, there is gifts cortis mortis causa,
Correct.
and read with Section 191 of the Indian Succession Act. The question is, how long can you be in contemplation of death? That is what he's on. That sort of.
Yes, that's considered as 1 year. So if the policy is taken 1 year prior and then the person commits suicide, you still get the payment. We are not on those thoughts, but I thought that okay, so 1 year separation means it is considered that the two don't have any connection.
No, again, so I'm coming to the point, Vishnu, we were arguing is that unfortunately what happens is that you have rightly pointed out that you are ultimately bringing together or two events which could have well occurred in 2 different years. And once a connection in between the two ensues, you are going to tax the firm at the point of time of receipt of money, capital asset or stock in trade by the partner who may have retired much earlier. Now take a case, for example, as you write, and this is a commonplace occurrence, is that I retire from the firm. What do we agree? That because what is agreed is that typically in a real estate firm, it's a project which is going on, and somebody says that okay, आपको बाहर जाना है तो आप बाहर जाइए, जब भी होता है ready तो you get X amount of flats constructed. Okay, now what happens is that when we agreed, there was no question of there being a charge because I would have debited your capital account by that and that matter would have rested there. Now what happens is today, 2 years down the line, you have retired and in contemplation of getting the flats of say 4,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet as and when the project is complete. Now when that firm starts handing over that, the firm is going to be subjected to tax. Now this is something which they had never envisaged. Earlier, the position of law would have been that, all right, you took it away. In your hands, you would get a reduced cost of acquisition or cost of acquisition, if at all. And when you actually sell and capital gain arises, you pay your tax and the matter is because you are ultimately holding those real estate. Now, what is going to happen is that today, when I hand over those the real estate flats to you, the FMB thereof is going to be charged in my hands, which I had never contemplated. So even commercial arrangements are going to run into a problem.
Yes, correct. And the receiving partner will actually get the benefit. I mean, whoever
Exactly,
ex-partner,
exactly.
because for him the cost will be fair market value.
Yeah, that is what the whole problem is. And we are in the midst of 2-3 arbitrations like this, that this was never contemplated. And in the sense the deal is signed, sealed and delivered. And what do you do now due to tax liability? So, and it could be huge. So anyway, so what are our other friends doing? We want some.
Anil,
Huh.
in this case, can the partners plan that the assets are transferred in that time with the stamp duty valuation, the market value being zero, interest in the firm, in the property, so that later on they only have to pay whenever the firm is dissolved or anything, or whenever they sell, as a planning aspect.
Yeah, now we will have to think of many things which will after this provision, and we are dealing with
Yes.
2-3 situations where because this came in February, March, February 21. events have already taken place. Deals are signed, sealed, and delivered. And now the person who is going to receive, he says, what do I do? Law changed, law changed. So you pay your tax. So that's where.
Can I one question?
Yes.
Sir, my question is that if firm is only construction of the building,
Hmm.
put in the name of the partner, his personal name. Now the firm is dissolved. How can we transfer it? And which is to be taken up fair value? Because the firm is taken a depreciation also to that property, construction point.
No, I have not understood the question fully.
Sir,
What are you saying?
my question is that the property is purchased in the name of the partner. The firm is an arrangement with an agreement, which is to be construction of that property
Hmm.
in a business. Now the firm is taken a depreciation for that construction point of view. Now firm is dissolved. Then how can we give the transfer of this construction point of view? Is that this section is also been applicable?
Depreciation.
Yes, sir.
So.
In a factory point.
No, no. So what are the facts? So you mean to say that the property, the land is owned by a partner. The
Yes.
firm is actually a manufacturing unit.
Yes.
It constructs a building and claims depreciation on it.
Yes, sir.
So there is a WDV in the books of the firm, and now there is a dissolution, and one of the partners takes away the factory building.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you are saying?
Yes.
Oh.
But in that case, what will happen is that in the hands of the firm, it was a capital asset. It is suppose handed over to whoever partners it is handed over to. If we come to the conclusion that dissolution and handing over of the asset are two separate events, then and can be a charge will arise in the year in which that building is handed over. It will suppose that building is to give an example, ABC were partners. The land was owned by C. The firm ABC constructed a building thereon, carried out manufacturing, and enjoyed depreciation. Now, what happens is that on the dissolution of the firm, C owns the land, but the building is handed over to B. So, what happens is your question, if I have understood correctly.
Even if the building is also taken by the C.
So, if whoever, suppose C is taking it, then.
But here there is an issue.
Hmm.
First issue is that whether the land has been transferred to the books of the firm at whatever value.
Yeah, because
If the land is transferred, then land value also will be added.
Yes,
that will also be liable to capital.
So,
who pays stamp duty then? If it is transferred to some other partner.
Ultimately, the stamp duty
is paid by the transferee.
No, that is ultimately an arrangement between the parties. But the point is that the issue would be that Vishnu, the point is that it could be both situations.
Yes,
so first
I mean, we may not limit ourselves to only the cost of the building. If the land has also been transferred,
if the land
book,
has
by book entries also, it will be considered as a transfer of capital.
If the beneficial ownership of the land has been transferred from the partner to the firm, then of course that transfer back of the land and building both will have to be considered. If the construction of the building is merely by permissive user, that the land continues to be owned by the one partner who was erstwhile partner, and it is only the superstructure, because in India it is possible for the land and superstructure to be owned by different people. So therefore we can consider all situations, but I don't see a difficulty. Even if the firm has been dissolved earlier, then once this asset is handed over to whoever it is handed over, the dissolved firm will suffer the consequences of what the position is.
But Anil, this particular gentleman is saying that this building is depreciated. Still, so that will be treated as a capital asset.
So why not? A capital asset is depreciated. No? So what is section 50 applying to? Section 50 is applying it to a depreciable asset. No? Where is the question? The
Yeah, because
fact,
it says capital asset means property of any kind held by an
yeah,
assessee, whether or not connected with his business or profession. So if it is connected with his business, then
still,
in that case, depreciation would be claimed on it.
and that does not change the situation. In fact, there may be, there would be even more serious consequences in the hands of a depreciable asset. For example, the building is there for 20, 25 years. The FMV of the building could be significantly different than its WDV. So
Short-term
there
capital.
there could be so many situations arise. I have no in the sense the consequences could be harsh, but I don't see a difficulty in the sense the charge fructifying. I don't see any difficulty.
This section is also applicable for that purpose.
Yes, right.
Yes. And sir, I'm just a very simple questions to all the panelists of our senior sirs. So this section is applicable in the before. For example, budget 2021, it is applicable to 1/4/2021. So many partnership from during the corona time has dissolved. Now the government is charging to restrictively effective. How we have to be really legally each and every transaction, each and every law, each and every section have to be restrictively. So can the any kind of professional, can anybody, can legal advisor can do the taxation?
uh, Things are going to become yeah, I agree that this amendment, yes, it's many a time they have done this. They have done this in this case also. And fortunately for charitable trust, most of the retrospective, that's what we face every day. But but one thing I'll tell you is that over a period of time, we will have to be, absolutely updated on every situation. Practice is becoming more and more difficult.
Yeah,
But
it's
sir,
more and more challenging.
sir, this is the partner. If one of the partnership firm is dissolved in September 20, he doesn't know na. Okay, February
No, but
21, the law
yeah,
is applicable in future in the present case.
so these are situations which one has to face. So that is what it is that the law, when the firm got dissolved, nobody envisaged this sort of situation. Now it has come to the fore. So
Okay.
it's there.
So I have one small question. Now, this
Yes.
particularly problem which arises where the capital asset which is distributed is much more than the capital in the balance in the firm. So this kind of a scenario will generally occur where the immovable property is owned by the firm or there is a real estate firm. So other than that, do you have any such kind of a problem?
Yes. This problem could arise, Sagar, in many situations. We are talking of real estate where the accretion to the value is on account of a business scenario. But let's take a case where actually there is a running business, and these are real life situations where this will be faced even for professional firms. Take a case. I'll give you an illustration as to how this will result into a problem. Say suppose there is let's take a case of a professional firm itself. A professional firm is in practice. There are, say, 4 or 5 partners, and they're doing extremely well. Your accounting is on cash basis. You receive income, it gets credited to the partners, etc., etc. Now one partner says that I want to retire. Fine. So he retires, but once he retires, we pay him not only the capital balance, but we also pay him goodwill. So we say that, all right, because you have been a part of this firm, we calculate goodwill in whatever manner we want to calculate, and we will pay him his capital balance as well as a amount in goodwill. Now, what will happen in a scenario like this? Let's take a hypothetical case that I'm talking of pure professional firm, a firm of chartered accountants. Let's say 10 lakh rupees is his capital balance. The goodwill comes to 30 lakhs, and we are going to pay him 30 lakh rupees. Now, when we pay him 30 lakh rupees, what is the result? We pay him 40 lakh rupees in toto, as far as the firm is concerned, when it pays 30 lakhs, it does not get a deduction of that 30 lakhs for the simple reason that payment of self-generated goodwill to them will not be allowed as a write-off, as an expenditure. So 30 lakh rupees is not deductible. And on that 30 lakhs, which is in excess of the capital balance, the firm will pay tax.
Tax.
The firm will pay tax at 24%, which was never contemplated earlier. On the other hand, see how drastically the scenario has changed. What would have happened prior to the amendment? You would have paid goodwill to that partner. Goodwill of a profession would not have been taxable because section 55 does not apply. Section 55 used to at that point of time talked of only goodwill of
Or
business.
business. Correct.
Now it is profession. So what would have transpired earlier that we would have paid him goodwill? Once you have paid him goodwill, it would have been tax-free in his hands. Now, what is going to happen is after the amendment, the firm is going to have to pay tax. So obviously there will be a renegotiation and there will be a settlement. So effectively something which was not having a tax impact earlier will now have a tax effect in the hands of both the partner and the firm. And to play the devil's advocate, I am saying that all right, you pay him goodwill. What happens is that you pay him goodwill which is in excess of his partner's capital account. You will be taxed under 45(4) or 9(b), and he will be taxed on goodwill on account of the fact that section 55 is amended. If 55 is amended today, cost of goodwill will be will be nil. So what he will receive may also be taxed. There is an argument against that, but see the scenario. I just wanted to explain as to how serious a situation can arise.
Even Anil, if you really speaking, see on that particular formula of A is equal to B plus C minus D, they have provided that if at all the answer is negative, then in that case, that is going to be ignored.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. That is going to be ignored.
That
No,
also is in a
No,
way.
that is always so. So actually, you don't get the benefit of the loss. So in fact, Sagar, I will like to point out few more instances. Like if you have intellectual property rights, patents,
Exactly.
trademarks, anything, all that in any business or in any form is going to be an issue.
So somebody has, let's take a case like.
No, also there is one more thing. It's not a part of this exercise, today's exercise, but I just leave a thought with you. That what if that firm gets converted into a private limited company or something, provided of course you take care that that 51% shareholding is retained, and then certain partners retire. So who are shareholders, they transfer their shares.
Yes,
then
but
probably one could get out of the mischief of
yes,
this.
yes. But
Yeah.
that
So-
would not be possible in a professional firm of chartered accountants.
Yes, true. Not as on date at least.
Yes,
because in
not
future
as
one
on-
never knows.
No, I was trying to explain to Sagar. Let's take a case that you have a firm like Chitale Bandhu, a huge goodwill which is not reflected on the books. Say one of their partners wants to retire, you pay him. What will happen?
Yes, true.
In the sense, there are brands which are created over a period of time, and they're valued. Now, how on earth can you have? And today, the amendment is so far sweeping. They are saying that look, you will not get depreciation on goodwill. If you pay goodwill, it will be taxed, and it will be taxed in the hands of the firm. What are we? So, in one sweep, you have made a particular commercial transaction totally retrograde, I think. So
Only they want everybody to start get into private limited companies more than partnerships.
that I don't know, but
Even if the last 2 years, the partnership firm pay more tax against the private limited company.
no, things are going to become.
It's difficult.
Yes, things are going to become difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I was speaking at Vile Parle study circle the other day. For the first time, I never had an occasion to study filing of a return of income, because for the last 15 years I have not filed in the sense I don't prepare my return myself any longer. So my office does that. But they wanted me to speak on charitable trusts filing of return. And when I studied that Form 7, I said, hey, it's terrible in the sense, if you have to precisely fill in that return, it will require, not that it's impossible, but it requires so much collation of data, delving into the past. It's very difficult. I don't see why we bring such things. But anyway. So anyway, Sagar, we have come to 11 o'clock. So
Yeah.
Let's
So
conclude.
I would request Vikas to propose a vote of kind of closure and thanks if Vikas is there.
Yes, I am there.
Yeah. So I would request you to say something or close and
Anil sir, there is one last question about constitutional validity. Maybe you can just speak 1 minute on it, and it's a question by one of the participants in the chat.
Prasad,
Prasad, can the constitutional validity of 9B
on what ground do you challenge this constitutional validity? Because there is no
ethics about taxes?
that's okay.
Yes.
Then you'll have to go only on what Mr. Jaitley said on the floor of the house, that there will not amend anything retrospectively. But the current finance minister will possibly say कि Jaitley के साथ सब वो चला गया.
He is not here.
and in case of deeming provision, the chances of calling something as a constitutionally invalid seems to be removed, because otherwise even the gift would have become constitutionally challenged. No? Once
This is too small an amendment which would constitutional challenge. In the context of a national, it is going to be troublesome for all of us, who practice in this rung of practice. But I don't see the government,
But sir, can I speak one thing?
Yes.
I'm sure to certainly expect that there will be a constitutional challenge on this, and a writ might be definitely been filed. I'm sure that this would happen somewhere in the coming.
No, people are most welcome to file it, but the question is how success. So
Sir,
I don't know.
Double taxation, na?
No, but Prasad ji,
Yeah.
I suppose if at all there is anywhere a double taxation, I don't think double taxation per se is illegal. So if at all double taxation is provided properly in the statute, I don't think that is illegal. There are decisions to that effect also.
There is a celebrated decision, if I remember rightly, by Sujata Manohar on this.
Yeah. So I don't think on that count you can really speak.
No, it is unfair, unjust. That is true.
Yes.
But question is whether merely being unjust, but no harm.
Yeah, because the two constitute different receipts or different types of transactions in the hands of both parties. You have Bacha F. Gazdar, no?
Yes.
So there is no issue about it.
And that is precisely the reason that they are likely to come out with some provision so as to, reduce practical difficulties and all that.
That is possible. That is possible. So Sagar, what do you take next now? 45-4 only or something else?
No, I think we have to complete 45-4.
Okay, fine.
And other subjects I have already said in the group that more suggestions are welcome. So if you have any specific suggestions, we can take that.
So if you are taking 45-4, let Pramod only take it.
Anil, if 45-4 I have to take, then in that case I have to trouble you. That is the
That's okay.
That's no problem. But I don't think it will be possible in the next fortnight, because I have.
No, why I said your name is because it is connected. It is not.
I fully appreciate, but 2 months is going to be little difficult. That's the reason. Some
like the connection with the dissolution or the reconstitution and the payment.
Let me make an attempt. I think so. I'll make an attempt, but
whatever. I leave it to.
तो next week सोडून त्याच्या पुढच्या वीकला करा ना.
Next monthच्या पुढच्या month.
Take 1 week's gap.
Yeah.
Vishnu, there are some audits pending.
हो म्हणूनच 1 week सोडून द्या तुम्ही.
एक week नाही आपण
even 15 days.
महिन्यात ना एकदा करतो ना.
हो बरोबर. 2 आठवडे मिळतील.
So एक महिना घेतो असं म्हणता येते.
that is perfect. I think let
So
us make an attempt. Let
yeah,
us
in the meantime, for the next fortnight, somebody has to prepare for another one, and we'll come out with some suggestion in the group.
विद्याधर सोमानींचा पण काहीतरी he has raised a hand.
Vidyadhar, you have some question to ask?
He is
Okay.
no, he has raised a hand also, but he is muted.
Yeah.
He has raised a hand to say goodbye.
नाही नाही नक्की नाही.
Now I think
नाही सॉरी, अरे अनिल सर नाही सॉरी,
हा.
मी फक्त म्हणतो असं की आपण क्रिप्टो करन्सी वरती एखादं काही घेऊयात का?
अरे बापरे.
तुमचा जरा गायडन्स असला त्याच्यामुळे तो जरा हा खूप नवीन टॉपिक आहे आणि बरेच जण
क्रिप्टो मध्ये एक्सपर्ट म्हणजे ते आपण ह्याला देऊया, म्हणजे विष्णूलाच सांगूया.
बापरे, ते आधी सर्व्हाइव्ह होणार आहे की नाही हेच माहित नाही. बिटकॉइन मोस्टली इट इज गोइंग टू बी टर्म्ड इलिगल. I don't know. And you heard that Junjunwala speech
yes,
2 days back.
yes.
Yeah. So according to him, there will be as many currencies as there are people in the world. If you allow this crypto.
कोणीतरी मला वाटतं सेक्शन 6 एकदा परत घ्या. It needs a relook, I think.
Yeah, maybe I will ask Deepak to have it. We need a strong person.
दीपक आहे, पण आता सागर माझं सजेशन असं आहे की यू पिक समबडी. में दीपक तर ठीकच आहे, पण लेट अस पिक समबडी डिफरंट. म्हणजे आता या ग्रुपमध्ये श्रोते खूप जास्त होत आहेत.
अरे तुमचे ते दीपक गाडगीळ आहेत ना?
हा, दीपक. येस.
You can try that Deepak then.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Is he there today? No.
He had generally some problem in attending in the night.
Oh, acha.
So let's see.
He's not from Bombay, no?
No. He's
from Solapur. He's from Solapur. But anyway, is Mr. Vikas there? Quickly, we can close it so that.
Yes, I am very much there, sir.
So please go ahead and close it.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Sagar sir, for giving me this opportunity to give a hearty vote of thanks to my favorite Prabhu Desai sir. It's always been a treat to listen to him. And I've already heard Sati sir in past and also Kanere sir, but this today is like it's a icing on a cake. Listen to all three on a same subject, which is a very new, which is a very hot now. And Prabhu Desai sir has thanked me in the start of the presentation only, but there was not great work done by me. It was just a material which I pasted and give it to him. So the all hard work was done by him, and it was a very well presented lecture. And thank you very much, sir. Always looking forward to it. And thanks to all the participants, and as always, Sati sir and Kanere sir for their valuable inputs. Thank you very much.